Alright, before we jump into the list, let's talk about why operators matter so much in Anchor Panic. Honestly, if you have the right characters, the game becomes way smoother. You clear content faster, you farm resources without pain, and upgrading your current operators or saving pools for upcoming banners feels a lot more rewarding. That's exactly why meta characters are such a big deal, and why choosing who to invest in early can save you a ton of time and frustration later on. In this tier list, I ranked every operator based on their overall strength, but I didn't stop there. I also looked at how future-proof they are, using information from the CN server to see which characters will stay relevant long-term. And don't worry, this isn't just a list with letters slapped on it. Later in the video, I'll also go over the best team compositions for each element so you'll know exactly how to build your squads. Stick around, because this will help you plan smarter and get the most value out of your resources in Anchor Panic. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking characters in Anchor Panic. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Alicia, Artisan, Prism, Prism, Firefly, Trigger, and Arc. Let's talk about that awkward moment when a character looks almost useful, but your team performance says otherwise. Welcome to the part of the tier list where expectations quietly leave the room and we pretend everything is fine. These are the D tier characters in Anchor Panic, and yes, some of them really hurt to talk about. Starting with Alicia, on paper she sounds promising, a lightning single target damage dealer who can deal percentage-based health damage with her energy burst. That sounds spicy, right? The problem is that she only really starts to feel okay once you fully invest in her and reach Ascension 6. Even then, compared to other super rare characters who bring area damage or actual utility, Alicia just feels like a lot of effort for very little reward. She is not unusable, but she is definitely not worth prioritizing. Then we have Snowfox, the Ice Team single target damage dealer who desperately wants to shine but never quite gets there. Her damage output is underwhelming, and her energy stacking passive almost never reaches its full potential in real combat. You might get some value from her in the early game if your roster is extremely limited, but beyond that point, she quickly becomes dead weight. In short, Snowfox is more cute idea than effective unit. Next up is Prism, and this one is honestly painful. Prism is an ice single target damage dealer and is widely considered one of the weakest super rare operators in Anchor Panic. Her strongest passive ability is locked behind Ascension 6, and even after you unlock it, she still struggles to compete with most other super rare characters who are sitting comfortably at Ascension 0. Investing in Prism feels like training for a marathon that never actually starts. Moving on to Firefly, the Fire Team single target damage dealer who scales her damage based on enemy burn stacks. In theory, this sounds great. In reality, her ability to apply burn is extremely limited, which means her damage ceiling is much lower than you would hope. While her numbers can look decent in very specific situations, other Fire super rare characters simply do her job better and faster. Firefly is not terrible, but she is painfully underwhelming. Now, let's talk about Trigger, and yes, this is where things get rough. Trigger is a lightning single target damage dealer and is often considered one of the worst characters in the entire game. Her damage is low, she has no area of effect attacks, and her passive abilities provide little to no meaningful benefit. There is really no situation where you would choose Trigger over another lightning character unless you are actively trying to challenge yourself. Finally, we have Arc, a physical single target damage dealer who technically works sometimes. She can be mildly useful in the early game, especially if you are running a full physical team. The problem is that full physical teams are generally weak in the early stages of Anchor Panic, which makes her niche feel even smaller. By the time she starts to function, you usually already have better options. Arc is not useless, but she is rarely the right choice. So yeah, that wraps up the D tier. These characters are not completely unplayable, but they are definitely the ones you build only if you really love them, or if the gacha gods have been particularly cruel to you. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Mustang, Lionblade, Chimera, Catalpa, Snowfox, Kor, Koraz, and Korosika. This is the tier where characters feel strong at first, and honestly, they kind of are. Until the game politely reminds you that early game power does not age well. C-tier characters in Anchor Panic are those units you rely on when your roster is limited, but slowly bench once better options walk in. Mustang is one of those characters who really carries you through the early and mid-game without complaining. She is a tank with surprisingly good speed, strong defense and block, and even some line-based area damage to help clear waves. On a physical damage team, especially if you do not have Flicker yet, she does her job well. The issue is that once you compare her to tanks like Dione or Antelope, the lack of utility becomes very obvious. She survives, she blocks, and that is basically it. Lionblade steps into the fire team as a single target support and debuffer with some respectable damage. Her biggest selling point is Seal Fire, which can completely prevent enemies from acting, and that can feel very strong in the right moment. Sadly, when you line her up against Yuanya, Neon, or Sparklewing, she just feels outclassed. Lionblade works, but she is rarely the best answer to any problem. Kimia is actually a very solid physical, super rare damage dealer, especially if your options are limited. If you only have Rose and are missing Raven or Yan, Kimia can absolutely carry her weight. Her passives significantly boost her damage and defense ignore, which makes her surprisingly effective. The problem is not Kimia herself, but the fact that fire super rare characters simply bring more value when built into proper fire teams. Catalpa is one of those characters that makes you stop and say, wait, why is this unit only C tier? She applies thorns and deals excellent damage over time, making her one of the strongest single target damage dealers among super rare units. Unfortunately, natural teams as a whole are not very strong, and Catalpa cannot function as your only source of damage. She has potential, but the team around her just does not support it. Artisan is a lightning team tank that does way more than you expect at first glance. She gains additional defense for every lightning operator deployed, heals based on missing health when using skills, and even reduces enemy damage, which helps your entire team survive longer. Until you unlock Flicker, Artisan is genuinely a great option and feels very reliable. Once Flicker arrives though, Artisan quietly steps aside. Core fills the role of a single target damage dealer and debuffer for ice teams. Her Frostbite application increases the ice damage enemies take, which sounds great in theory. In practice, Abyssal does everything Core wants to do, but better and more efficiently. Core is fine while you are still learning the game, but she quickly loses relevance once your roster expands. Koraz is a dependable fire team tank who brings an area of effect energy burst that helps apply extra burn stacks. She feels sturdy, contributes to fire team synergy, and honestly does her job well. If you are running a full fire team and do not have Grenache yet, Koraz might actually be your best tank option. She is not flashy, but she is effective. Finally, Kurosaka is a funny one because she is hands down the best rare single target damage dealer in the game. Her passives give her massive critical rate boosts, and her damage can look impressive for her rarity. The problem is team synergy. Most fire super rare characters rely heavily on area attacks to apply burn, and Kurosaka simply does not fit into that rotation. Strong on paper, awkward in practice. That is C tier in a nutshell. Great early on, helpful when options are limited, but eventually replaced once Anchor Panic opens up its full roster. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Merlot, Marceline, Quasar, Sparklewinging, Yuanya, Neon, Alice, Newcastle, Raven, Yan, Lycosha, Euclid, Dawn, Abyssal, Diamond, and Dowlin. Now we're getting into that sweet spot where characters actually feel powerful and start defining how your team plays instead of just filling slots. B tier in Anchor Panic is all about core damage dealers and supports that scale hard with their element and can carry you through a massive chunk of the game if built correctly. Merlot is the absolute backbone of fire teams and easily the best free-to-play damage dealer in the game. She gains bonus damage for every burn stack on enemies, jumps to an absurd 60% critical rate once enemies have enough burn, and dishes out brutal area damage. The catch is simple. Merlot alone is not enough. She needs teammates who can consistently stack burn, but if you build around her, she will carry you through content like it owes her money. Marceline is one of the strongest fire supports you can ask for, thanks to her tier debuff that increases the fire damage enemies take with every stack. The problem is that a huge chunk of her power is locked behind her ascension bonuses and, more importantly, her sigil. That sigil is one of the best in the entire game and basically turns her into a monster support. Without it, she feels incomplete. With it, she feels essential. Quasar is a fire-leaning support who focuses heavily on survival and damage mitigation rather than flashy buffs. She scales her own health based on how many fire allies you bring and redirects a large portion of incoming damage through her puppet, which also heals her whenever allies act. She gains life drain later on and improves it further with higher ascensions. On paper, her kit is loaded, but in practice, her buffs feel solid rather than game-changing. Sparklewing sits comfortably as a hybrid support and damage dealer for fire teams. She applies multiple burn stacks with her energy burst, buffs fire allies, and lowers enemy fire resistance just by doing her thing. She is undeniably good, but when compared to other area of effect fire supports, she sometimes feels like the almost best option rather than the optimal one. Yuanya exists almost entirely for one reason, feeding burn stacks to Merlo. She is an area of effect fire damage dealer who works perfectly fine with 0 ascensions and minimal investment. Outside of Merlo-focused teams, her value drops off hard, but if you are building around Merlo, Yuanya does her job cleanly and efficiently. Neon fills a similar role to Yuanya, but adds a bit more complexity by bringing buffs for allies and debuffs for enemies. She starts weaker than Yuanya early on, but once you reach her 6th ascension, she clearly overtakes her in value. Until then, she feels like a long-term investment rather than an immediate payoff. Alice is a very friendly lightning single target damage dealer for free-to-play players and works well until you unlock Karanissa. She stacks critical rate, critical damage, and penetration, giving her excellent burst potential against priority targets. That said, once you move into endgame lightning teams, she simply cannot keep up and slowly fades out of relevance. Newcastle is the unsung hero of quantum teams and the only truly accessible quantum damage dealer for free-to-play players. She brings strong buffs for quantum allies and has a line-based area energy burst that hits harder when focused on a single enemy. She becomes a real buffer at Ascension 3, and once you reach that point, she feels surprisingly powerful and reliable. Raven is the go-to single-target damage dealer for physical teams, especially when bosses are involved. She deals percentage-based health damage and ignores enemy defense and block, which makes her incredibly consistent. For free-to-play players, she is hands down the best physical boss killer you can build. Yan is the strongest area of effect physical damage dealer available without spending, only slightly behind Rose. The two of them together form a terrifying duo that can clear most content with ease. The downside is that Yan really only shines in full physical teams, and outside of that environment, she loses a lot of her impact. Lycosia is another physical area damage dealer, but she is much more situational. She can survive fatal damage at higher ascensions and deals more energy burst damage when more enemies are lined up in a straight line. She is solid and reliable, just not as universally useful as Yan or Raven. Yukili serves as one of the main damage dealers for ice teams and specializes in high single target damage that ramps up over time. Her stacking buffs make her stronger the longer fights last, and at Ascension 3, her blood hunting skill becomes a full area attack, which is a massive power spike. She is not completely overpowered, but with investment, she becomes very scary. Dawn is a free-to-play area damage dealer for ice teams who works reasonably well until you unlock Yukili. Unfortunately, she falls behind characters like Alice and Merlo in raw performance, and ice team support options are limited for free-to-play players. Right now, she feels more like a temporary solution than a long-term plan. Abyssal is one of the best supports ice teams could ask for. She deals solid area damage, reduces enemy ice resistance, and increases allied ice damage all at the same time. She pairs extremely well with Yukili and does not require heavy investment to start performing, which makes her incredibly efficient. Diamond is a single target damage dealer and support who applies Frozen at an impressively high rate. She shines in full ice teams, especially in player versus player scenarios, but compared to Leng Zhao, she feels weaker overall. At the moment, she is arguably one of the lowest priority super rare characters to invest in. Dawalin is the long-awaited, nature-main damage dealer and a clear investment for the future. Natural teams currently lack strong support options, which makes pulling for her feel risky, but Dawalin herself is incredibly strong. Her ability to gain extra turns allows her to stack damage to absurd levels, especially when combined with her critical boosts. With her signature sigil, Dear Soul, she quietly sits in a future top-tier position, waiting for the right supports to arrive. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Leng Zhao, Grenache, Flicker, Ling, Olivia, Rose, Inastrain, Daling, Centaurea, Dione, Antelope, Ifrit, Abyssalicia, and Thunderrock. This is the tier where characters stop asking for permission and just start winning fights on their own. A tier units in Anchor Panic are insanely flexible, powerful across multiple modes, and often feel like cheat codes once you understand how to use them properly. Leng Zhao is the kind of character that makes ice teams feel unfair. She is a core ice unit and one of the strongest crowd control and damage hybrids in the entire game. She can freeze all enemies, stack freezing consistently, and completely shut down enemy teams, which makes her absolutely oppressive in player versus player. The best part is that she does not even need ascensions to work, because her energy burst alone is enough to define fights. Grenache is an absurdly good support and damage dealer who fits perfectly into fire teams and still performs great in mixed squads. She can apply burn on her own, grant lifesteal to allies when they attack burned enemies, and massively boost her own survivability and damage. She deals solid area damage, supports the team, and refuses to die easily. Her strongest lifesteal bonus is locked behind 6-star Ascension, but even without it, she is already amazing. Flicker is the definition of a premium tank for quantum teams and still holds her own in mixed lineups. She applies shields, can revive once per battle, takes an absurd amount of punishment, and even contributes decent damage. The downside is that she really wants her signature sigil and 6-star Ascension to fully unlock her power. Once you reach that point though, Flicker becomes nearly unkillable. Ling is a core lightning buffer, debuffer, and damage dealer rolled into one terrifying package. She applies Lightning Mark, which lowers enemy lightning resistance and later boosts ally critical rate against marked targets. Her area energy burst applies Shock, which is incredibly strong for lightning damage dealers. At 6-star Ascension, she even works well in mixed teams, making her one of the most flexible lightning units available. Olivia is a powerhouse damage dealer and buffer who works beautifully in fire teams and still performs well in mixed squads. She brings massive area damage and strong offensive buffs for allies, and with her 6-star Ascension and signature sigil, her damage stats become downright ridiculous. Her only real weakness is that without heavy investment, she can struggle to compete with future top-tier damage dealers. Rose is one of the most valuable physical supports and damage dealers you can build, especially when paired with Raven. She deals excellent area damage, buffs ally attack, and reduces enemy defense and physical resistance at the same time. She is strong in almost any scenario, but she truly shines when enabling physical damage teams to hit absurd numbers. Strain is an incredible healer and buffer who feels right at home in quantum teams, but also works perfectly in mixed squads. She provides both single target and area healing while also delivering massive attack buffs. The only thing holding her back is her Adrenaline passive, which applies a defense debuff until you unlock her 3-star or 6-star Ascension. Once that downside is removed, she becomes top tier. Dealing is a meta-defining player versus environment support who fits into almost any team, especially quantum-based ones. She stacks radiation with her area energy burst while buffing ally attack and defense at the same time. Since she is a super rare character, unlocking her powerful 6-star Ascension is much easier, which makes her an incredibly efficient long-term investment. Centauria is one of the best healer and buffer units in the game, particularly for quantum teams. She cleanses debuffs, provides strong area healing, and buffs damage all in one kit. In many situations, she is simply more valuable than Lilira, and because she is a super rare unit, her Ascension passives are much easier to unlock, making her power spike come early. Dione is one of the strongest tanks and supports Anchor Panic has to offer. She provides heals, shields, and defense buffs to the entire team, making everyone significantly harder to kill. Her 3-star and 6-star Ascension passives add even more shields when her health drops low, turning her into a frontline nightmare for enemies. Antelope fills a very similar role to Dione as a tank and support, offering shields, heals, and defensive buffs across the team. What sets her apart is that her buffs gain extra bonuses when applied to quantum allies. She is incredibly strong overall and one of the best frontliners you can access early in the game. Ifrit is a versatile quantum support who somehow manages to fit into almost any team composition. She specializes in boosting energy burst damage and applying quantum resistance debuffs, but depending on her models, she can also act as a solid sub-damage dealer. Because of how quantum mechanics work, her flexibility alone justifies her A-tier placement. Her signature sigil further lowers enemy quantum resistance and boosts her critical damage, pushing her even higher. Abyss Alicia is a massive upgrade over the original Alicia, but she comes with a learning curve. To maximize her damage, she must follow a very specific skill rotation while in her Abyss Echo state. If played correctly, she takes reduced incoming damage and fires much stronger energy bursts. Her talent that prevents her from dying as long as another teammate is alive adds huge survivability, and her signature sigil, Future Me, boosts her attack while shredding enemy defense. Thunderrock is a brutally effective tank with a very clear and satisfying kit flow. After being attacked 3 times, she gains Magnetic Barrier, allowing her to parry the next hit and heal herself. She can also randomly gain this barrier at the start of turns, and when it breaks, it deals lightning damage to the attacker. Her energy burst grants shields to all allies and boosts defense penetration for lightning teammates. The only drawback is that she cannot be healed normally, relying entirely on her barrier for sustain. This is the tier where characters stop being good options and start being long-term investments that shape entire teams. The characters in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Turn, Echo, Tia, Karanissa, and Lilira. This is the tier where balance stops being a suggestion and starts feeling like a distant memory. S-tier characters in Anchor Panic do not just perform well, they redefine what a good unit even means, and once you build around them, the game starts playing by their rules. Turn is, without exaggeration, the strongest buffer and support in the entire game. She massively boosts allies' offensive stats and grants extra damage on skill usage, which scales insanely well across almost every team archetype, especially Quantum. What makes her even more absurd is that she does not need any ascensions to be useful at all. She is already amazing out of the box. Her signature sigil pushes her passive damage amplification even further, and there is simply no super rare character that can replace what she brings to a team. In practice, Turn feels like the glue that holds endgame teams together. Whether you are running Quantum, mixed squads, or niche setups, she slots in effortlessly and immediately raises your damage ceiling. This is why she is the only truly recommended reroll target among non-limited characters. Her value is universal, future-proof, and irreplaceable. Echo is another top-tier support who combines damage amplification and healing into one incredibly efficient kit. She consistently boosts allied damage while keeping the team healthy, which already makes her excellent. On top of that, her area of effect attack can silence enemies, completely shutting down dangerous skill rotations and trivializing certain encounters. Her only real drawback is that some of her strongest passives are locked behind 3-star and 6-star ascensions. Even so, Echo is still very strong before those upgrades, and once fully unlocked, she becomes one of the most oppressive supports in the game. If you value control, safety, and raw team power, Echo delivers all 3. Tia is a terrifying assassin-style damage dealer with reliable area damage and devastating execution potential. She deals percentage-based health damage and actively targets low-health enemies, which allows her to clean up fights with ruthless efficiency. Compared to similar assassins, her energy burst gives her much more consistent area of effect pressure. To truly unlock her broken potential, you will want her 3-star and 6-star ascension bonuses. Once those are in place, Tia transitions from very strong to borderline unfair. She deletes priority targets, collapses enemy formations, and ends fights faster than most teams can react. Karanissa is widely regarded as one of the strongest damage dealers in Anchor Panic, even when compared to future characters on the Chinese and Japanese servers. She is a back row assassin capable of dealing absurd single target damage, and her ability to recast her energy burst every time she executes an enemy makes her snowball out of control in the right situations. Her 3-star ascension bonus is absolutely mandatory, as it removes the damage penalty when she chains energy bursts. With that restriction gone, Karanissa becomes a monster that can wipe entire enemy teams on her own. She is not just S tier now, she is S tier in the future as well. Lilira is the undisputed queen of healing and shielding in Anchor Panic, especially on full Quantum teams. The amount of sustain she provides is unmatched, making difficult content dramatically safer and more forgiving. Her presence alone can turn losing fights into slow, inevitable victories. What pushes Lilira fully into S-tier territory is her ability to revive an ally once per battle through her 3-star and 6-star ascension bonuses. That single mechanic can completely change the outcome of high difficulty content and player versus player matches. If survivability matters, Lilira is not optional, she is essential. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.